This god tier Warlock build just became even stronger. With the release of Season of the Deep, we got a bunch of new artifact perks that takes this build to the next level. With the Volatile Flow seasonal artifact perk from last season now gone, we're going to come up with an alternative so that we can still benefit from volatile rounds, but at the same time, make it even better using some of the new artifact perks we got from this season. And since update 7.1 this week, we have not only a new fragment slot available for a Void subclass, allowing us to now use 4 instead of 3, but we also have a 20% damage buff to our super, making this worth using inside of endgame PvE content. Previously, this build was good just like last season, but there were reasons why you wouldn't use this build, which was mostly because the Starfire Fusion build was the king of all builds. But now that's nerfed, I truly believe this Void build will take the crown of being one of the best builds for Warlocks to use moving forward inside of Destiny 2 this season. Because with this build, we're going to get volatile rounds, infinite grenades and abilities, Devour which will give us instant max health on every single kill, and if that's not enough, we're now also going to get overshields too, due to a new seasonal perk. So we're really just unkillable with this build in most types of content. And I have tested this build in a bunch of different things like seasonal activities, legendary activities, and even master content whilst 25 under the recommended power level. Honestly guys, this build is probably your next go-to for playing endgame PvE. So if you like this one, then a rating is much appreciated, and feel free to subscribe to show your support, otherwise let's get straight into it. Now, Season of the Deep has given us a bunch of nerfs, but also a bunch of buffs to not only certain subclasses and builds, but to specific exotic weapons and armor as well. Which is why if you like this build and you want to see more builds like this updated for this season, then you might want to check out my new Season 21 build playlist, which you can find linked down below, because over the next couple of weeks, that playlist will start to have a lot more builds in, which you can potentially use to do your solo flawless new dungeon this season, and whatever else this season brings. But with this build specifically, we're going to take the Warlock Void build from last season, and update it for this season with the changes we have. So one of the changes we got is that we can now start on another fragment, and we also have a 20% increase to our super's damage. We've also lost the ability to make heavy ammo infinitely, and we've lost the ability to get volatile rounds from orbs of power. So we're going to get a solution to bring this build back up to its full potential. Now this season we have 4 artifact perks that are going to benefit this build. So these are the cheaper void mods, the Unto the Breach, where defeating a void debuff target creates a void breach while your void subclass is equipped, Protective Breach, where picking up a Void Breach gives you an overshield, and Supernova, where picking up a Void Breach causes your next source of void damage to create a large weakening pulse. So it's pretty clear Bungie wants us to use Void Breaches with our Void builds this season, which is exactly what we're going to do with this build. And since volatile rounds is classed as a debuff, we're going to focus around that area, and since we're a dedicated grenade build, we'll use the Echo of Instability as our primary source of obtaining volatile rounds. Now before we dive too deep with this build, let's first check out how we'll use the build. So you'll start by running up to an enemy, charging and throwing your void grenade at enemies to ideally kill them. This will spawn an orb, give you Devour and volatile rounds. From here you'll pick up a Void Breach to get an overshield and rinse and repeat. So you'll just be throwing grenades and using void weapons to kill adds, which is extremely effective for ad clearing fast, and it's great to use in all types of content and difficulties. And also with the build set up the way we have it, we'll be able to have those infinite grenades regardless of Devour and mods because of our exotic that we're going to be using. But using the mods we have, it will just speed it up even more. Your only issue is going to be if you miss with that grenade, because for this build to work, you need to be throwing those grenades consistently. That's the only thing really. So the exotic we're using is the Contraverse Hold, and what this does is resist incoming damage while charging a void grenade, and charge void grenades return grenade energy on hit. This is a timed thing, and because we're using a fragment that makes our grenades last longer, we'll be able to instantly get the grenade back as long as we hit a target and it doesn't kill it, so something like a champion, which means we can use this for DPS as well, and not just for ad clearing. But other exotics you can use if you don't want to use this one are Verity's Brow, Nezarec Sin, and the Score of Dire. But honestly, I'll just stick with the Contra, because these are pretty good for the grenades we're using. Unless you want to experiment around and use different exotics, you can do that, but for this build today, we're going to be focusing around Contraverse Hold. So because we're using that exotic, we're going to use the Vortex Grenade, really good grenade. Then for the melee, we have the only one available, which does make enemies volatile too, so that's another source of volatile for breaches. The Rift we have is just a healing one, but you can use the empowering one if you want to, it's up to you. And then the super ability we have is the Nova Bomb, or Slowva-Bomb, the slow one. Again, you don't have to use that, you can use any super for this build. For aspects, we're using the Chaos Accelerant so that our Vortex Grenades increase in size and last longer. Then the second aspect we have is Feed the Void, so that we can get Devour. And if you're new, what Devour does is restore health, extend Devour, and give you a grenade energy on every final blow on enemies. One of the most powerful buffs in the game alongside restoration for extra survivability. For fragments though, we have Echo of Expulsion, so our void abilities cause targets to explode. We'll also get a +10 to intellect too. Echo of Remnant, so our grenades last even longer. Echo of Cessation, so defeating volatile targets creates a void breach. This one you 100% want on for this season, as it's the only source that we're going to be getting these void breaches from. But the last one is Echo of Instability, so defeating targets with grenades grants volatile rounds to our void weapons. Again, this one you need ideally so that we have that consistency of getting volatile rounds. And because of that, you'll want to run void weapons. Either a funnel web is good or the commemoration machine gun. Anything that can quickly kill adds to generate breaches and refresh our timers is what you want, but it will need to be a void weapon. If you're going into endgame content like a GM, then it's fine to run things like the Limon bow, great for overload champions. Of course, gameplay will be slower, but that's fine because you're in endgame anyway, and you might not always get the consistency of having volatile rounds. But when you do, and you do generate those breaches for overshields, well, that may well just save you, so this build will do a good job. Now, to make this build even better, we're going to be running a bunch of mods. So in the helmet we have 2 Ashes to Assets. This will give you super energy on grenade kills, something we'll be doing all the time anyway. For the arms, I have a firepower to spawn orbs on grenade kills as well, and then a grenade kickstart mod. You don't need this one on, but it does help. For the chest, we have a bunch of damage resist mods, but you'll want to change these depending on the activity you're playing. So if you're going into a Master Nightfall with Arc Threat as the modifier, then put on Arc Resist mods. Otherwise, leg armor, we have a better already to trigger health regen when picking up orbs. Great for the times Devour isn't active, or you just run around and run into an orb. We have an Orbs of Restoration for more energy when picking up orbs too, and a Void Scavenger mod for a heavy void weapon. Lastly, in the class, we are running 3 distribution mods for more energy when using our class near enemies. You don't need this one, you can swap it out too, but the last thing you want to focus on are these stats. So I'd get Resilience to 100 first, then Discipline, and then Recovery. If you max out those 3 stats for this build, then you'll master this build in no time. Now you might think, well, what's the point of 100 Discipline when you have Contraverse Hold and Devour and a Grenade Kickstart mod? Well, you're sort of right, you don't need to have it, but if you don't have a grenade active because you missed, then ask yourself how you're going to be getting the next grenade quickly, because you're most likely going to be waiting around for it to recharge, or by finding orbs of power. Anyway, this here is what the artifact setup is for Season of the Deep. I haven't yet got the Supernova perk, but once I do, I will be slotting that on because this build will become even better than it is now. And then this here is the mod screen setup. Again, like every video, the dim link will be down below so you can quickly use it to set it up yourself. So overall, this build is probably one of the best Warlock builds right now for the Void subclass this season, especially for ad clearing with infinite grenades, but I'd still use this in Legend of Master Lost sectors solo, or any activity in the game where you might have a lot of tough minor ads, or you just want to make endgame PvE become easy mode, because this build will definitely do the job for you to help you speed up ad clearing as long as you can throw grenades and not miss with them. But either way, a really good build for Warlocks this season. So guys, if you like this build and you want to see more, then be sure to check out the full playlist down below for all the best and latest builds in Destiny 2 Lightfall Season 21 or Season of the Deep. And until next time, have a good one, and I'll see you then. Peace out guys.